story that actually just broke in the last 2 weeks, and it was dealing with FEMA. So our crisis managers, the people who respond to, you know, when there's raging fires in California to hurricanes in Florida. These are the FEMA workers are your feet on the ground people dealing with these issues. And it actually just came out that the head of HR at FEMA, a man named Corey Coleman, had several inappropriate relationships with women on staff and was hiring friends of his that were fraternity brothers and was meeting women on dating sites, hiring them, and setting them up in regional offices with his fraternity brothers, with explicitly writing in emails that his intention was for those women to sleep with his fraternity brothers. And so it was rampant sexual harassment, sexual misconduct, a lot of hostility in the work environment, and a lot of women coming forward and saying, we don't feel comfortable in our jobs. But because this man was the head of HR, he was doing this for years on end with no oversight and no accountability.
So how in the world do you think this was happening? I mean,
it is. So the big problem within our civil service is there is little to no accountability. Just to put it in some perspective, the termination rate, so the average firing rate in the private sector, is 17%. In the public sector, it's 3%. And the firing for cause rate is 0.5%. So you have a 99.5% chance of never being fired for cause if you work in the federal government. And there's a historical reason for that. So when the United States government was first forming its civil service, back in like the 1800s, we passed the Pendleton Act. And what the goal of the Pendleton Act was to ensure that you couldn't fire someone for disagreeing with you politically. And what happened was the federal government put so many protections in place to prevent workers from being fired for political reasons that they made it impossible to fire workers at all. So it's so difficult to get fired in the federal government or even in, state and local government that managers, when they have a problem with an employee, they don't fire them. They transfer them to a different department. And another story I can give is something that happened at the EPA, actually, where you had an employee who was stealing like video cameras and like other technology equipment from his EPA office and pawning it and selling it and taking the money. And it was known that he was doing this for months, for years on end. But they couldn't fire him because it's so difficult to fire a federal employee that they just transferred him to different positions, and he did the exact same thing at all these different offices. So, there's this really big problem of it's so difficult to fire an employee that there ends up being no accountability and oversight. And you have individuals like Corey Coleman who are able to abuse workers for years on end and experience no repercussions.
Like this video? Be sure to subscribe to our channel. Watch the full episode of Shabbat Night Live this Friday night at 8 p.m. Eastern. See you then.